Hey everyone, welcome back to Mobile Code Lab. In the last video, we successfully set up our React Native CLI environment on macOS, and I also explained what's different on Windows. Now today, we're going to open our first project and understand its entire structure. Because before you become a good engineer, you must know what lives where, which folders can you touch, which folders should you never touch, and how does React Native connect Android and iOS together. By the end of this video, you'll look at a React Native project and say, bro, I know exactly what's happening here. So, when you create a project using this npx command, you get a folder structure something like this. Most beginners only touch index.js and some JavaScript files, but real engineers understand the Android folder, the iOS folder, and the native configuration files. Let's explore all of them step by step. Here you can see this Android folder. This folder contains the entire Android app, written in Java or Kotlin. Now if you expand Android, then expand the src, then main, then in this Java folder, you can find the main.activity.kt file. So these files basically launch your Android app, load the React Native engine, register packages and native modules. If you ever build custom native modules, this is where you'll write Android code. Now if you expand this res folder, then here you can find Android UI resources, which contains app icons, colors, styles, layouts. But anyway, most React Native devs rarely touch this, but if you want advanced customizations, this becomes important. Now let's come to root-level build.gradle, which placed inside the Android folder. So, this Gradle file controls Android's overall build settings. This file includes things like build tools version, Gradle plugin version, and repositories. You usually edit this when upgrading React Native or fixing build issues. Now let's come to this app-level build Gradle file. This file is app-specific config. This file contains application ID like package name, min s version, target s code, signing config for Play Store release. Whenever you want to update your app's version or SDK level, you do it here. If the Android folder looked complex, the iOS folder looks even scarier to beginners. But don't worry, it's actually simple once you break it down. So first, let's open this iOS folder, then my app, and then info.plist. And hands down, this file is super important. It stores things like app name, permissions, something like camera, location, and notifications, supported orientations, and app transport security settings. If your app needs camera permission, you add it here. If your app needs location, you add it here. Now let's explore this _nos.swift file. So this file is the entry point and main lifecycle manager for your iOS React Native app. And its responsibility is app entry point, initialize React Native. So basically, it creates the React Native bridge between native iOS and JavaScript, and then it configures JavaScript bundle loading. Now let's talk about the pod file. This file exists inside the iOS directory. Pod file is like a package.json, but specifically for iOS. It controls which iOS frameworks your app uses, versions of those frameworks, how React Native integrates with iOS. Android and iOS is done. Now let's see some other and important files. Because before we move ahead, there's one more important thing we need to clear up. If you open a React Native project and only look at the Android and iOS folders, you'll miss the real power. Because most of the behavior of your app is actually controlled by configuration files. So now, let's go through them one by one. First, let's go to this gem file. Windows users, you will not see a gem file. This is macOS specific because iOS depends on Ruby-based tools. And this file basically controls which Ruby gems your project uses. Now let's see the JS bridge that is the index.js file. This file registers your main component. It connects your JavaScript world to the native world. Now let's come to this app.js file. This is your actual React UI code, where you write screens, components, navigation, styling. This part grows as your app grows. Now apart from this, you should never touch the node modules and this build folder. Don't ever touch anything here manually. If you break something, just delete it. These are temporary files. Trash them if you face build issues. Now come to the star show of our project, that is package.json file. Package.json tells your project which libraries are installed, which scripts you can run, which versions your app depends on. This is where React, React Native, and all third-party libraries are listed.
Whenever you run npm install, this file get readied first. Now let's come to PackageLock.json file.
Now this file scares beginners, but it's simple. PackageLock.json locks exact versions of every dependency. Even if your friend runs the project, your CI server runs the project, everyone gets the same versions. So just keep one thing in mind, that never edit this manually. Always commit it to Git. This file prevents "it works on my machine" problems. Then we have this Babel config.jb.js file. This is basically a translation file. JavaScript evolves fast. Phones don't understand modern JS directly. That's where Babel comes in. This file tells React Native how to convert modern JavaScript, how to handle JSX, how to support TypeScript. Without Babel, your app won't even run. Most of the time, you don't touch this, but when you add advanced libraries, this file becomes important. Now let's come to this metro.config.js file. This is traffic controller for React Native. Metro is React Native's bundler. This file controls how files are bundled, asset resolution, performance optimizations, custom extensions. If you ever see errors like unable to resolve module, this is one of the first files you check. Then we have jest.config.js file. This is the testing setup. This file configures Jest, React Native's testing framework. It defines how tests run, which files are test files, how mocks are handled. Even if you don't write tests now, this file prepares your project for professional workflows. Then we have app.tsx file. This is where your app starts here. This is where your UI begins. Screens, components, navigation, state logic. Everything eventually flows from app.tx. Think of this as the root of your React tree. Now let's finally talk about app.json file. This is the app identity card. This file contains metadata: app name, display name, orientation, background color. React Native reads this during build time. If you ever want to rename your app, change splash config, you'll touch this file. If you've reached this point, congratulations. You now understand more than 70% of React Native beginners. Most people copy-paste code. You're learning how things actually work. In the next video, we'll start building real UI and bring this structure to life. Drop a comment saying #ProjectStructureClear, and I'll see you in the next episode of Mobile Code Lab. Until then, understand deeply, build confidently.